Hello everyone and welcome. It has been a while since I have been making any content, but this is kind of a reintroduction to this channel in a way. As you know, I was making a lot of Reiki content and also videos on witchcraft and the occult, and though this is still very much something I would like to do and get back into eventually, right now I am going to do something that I've wanted to do for a very long time, which is to make content that is more centered around my tarot practice and the cards that I use, as well as how I'm using them and how that fits in with my spiritual journey and where I am taking my future spiritual journey. So today's video is going to be centered on the cards that I use around this time of year, around fall, which is such a magical, beautiful time in the seasons and just the passage of time in our lives. This time of year is just such a special time to go inwards and reflect. So I just wanted to share some of the tarot decks as well as books and things that are lighting me up during this time, and I hope that it gives you some comfort, some inspiration, and perhaps things to journal about or reflect on in your own practice. Also, as you may or may not know, I am a professional tarot reader. I have been reading cards for clients professionally full-time since 2018. So this is my full-time job, and I am opening to book clients again for tarot readings, which I will have links in the description below in the description box. So as a professional reader, I have accumulated many different decks over the years, and this has been something that I've been very passionate about kind of quietly, as it wasn't a side of me that I really showed very much other than some posts on Instagram and of course with the actual work that I live and breathe every day as a tarot reader. There's just a lot of decks that I feel really encapsulate this season. Some of them are oracle and some are tarot decks, and these are in no real specific order. It's more about just what I have at hand, as there are a lot of them and a lot to share. So that being said, I want to go ahead and talk about the first one, which is the Halloween Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. So this oracle deck I've had for several years now, and what really I find most captivating about this deck is the depth that these cards have. Now, on the surface, they may not seem to be very deep or lead to deep readings, but it's a bit deceptive in that way, because I find when I work with them that there is quite a lot of depth here, and the guidebook is also very well done. So it goes into enough detail to kind of give you some starting points and what to apply this to in your life, but it's not so specific to where it's narrowing that down. So I find that it's a good balanced oracle deck that really, of course, has this gorgeous Halloween, very luscious kind of imagery, with the colors and the saturation and the graphics as well. But it's also one that is flexible in terms of what you're reading on it about. So it's not so specific that it gives you messages that are about one particular thing, like, you know, like love or finances, for example. It's really more broad than that, but in that way it helps you to really connect it to everything that's going on in your life. Now, what I also love about this is that even though it's a Halloween deck, it has imagery that is very positive and uplifting, along with the kind of spookier, shadowy elements. So for example, this one is Skull of Stars, and it says infinite possibilities. And when you are picking up a Halloween deck, this may not be a message that you expect to necessarily pair with this image, for example, but I was pleasantly surprised to find that it has a good balance of these themes. So it's not leaving you feeling overly, you know, heavy or emotional in a negative way. It's using kind of this imagery to tap into your emotions, to be more positive and uplifting and empowering. So the witch says, the earthly weaver of worlds. And I really just love the colors in this oracle, and the design is very interesting too. It has that kind of graphic design. Here's another of the skulls, and this one's the Skull of Flowers, creating through the ashes. So I love this kind of graphic, very kind of 90s, early 2000s vibe that we get from this deck. It's just so satisfying on that level. Lady de los Muertos, Lady de los Muertos, acceptance and equality. So there's a lot of flowers in this deck, and that's also kind of a surprise if you're not expecting it. And then we have something like this, which is the zombie, which one may expect to see in a shadowy kind of Halloween deck, as the message is control. And I definitely would get that with a theme like zombie. There is just so much of that human fear of what humanity could develop into, and kind of our need for survival, and really just thinking about what we are feeding on and how that's affecting us, as well as how we feel we are being fed on in a way. So I love the zombie as kind of a theme. And then we have these beautiful witchy elements here, like this one is scrying for intuition, and I love a good crystal ball. As a person who uses divination daily, I use many different methods. I do scry, and I have my own crystal balls. I also use smoke scrying and many different techniques, but I love that this kind of brings that element in too, because this time of year is not just about the shadow work and connecting with the death of all things, but there's also this feeling of going and peering behind the veil to the other world, and sometimes that can be lost in Halloween imagery and decks. So I love the way that it's presented here. And this one says winter, which I found interesting too, because Samhain is the leading up to the winter months, the preparation for the winter, which is always very important to think about during this time. That's what nature does. That's what we are expecting to do, and are, whether we realize it or not, we are preparing for change and for this time of inward stillness. Even if you're in a place that's not actually cold in the winter, there's just this feeling that we get during the winter of that silent pause. And then we have Ghost. And while I would love to go through each and every card because I love this deck so much, I'm not going to do that to you. This one is Ghost and says regret, which I found interesting because, you know, the ghosts of our past do come up during this time to visit us and haunt us and bring that kind of sometimes fearfulness, sometimes regret, sometimes many different emotions, nostalgia, and some of the more positive emotions too. But the ghost is this haunting figure in myth and legend and prose for a reason, because it does come back in this remembrance and almost a second chance at times to really reflect on our past and consider what has led us to this point and how we could change, or if we would have changed, how things could be. So this deck I love every year. I use it every year. It's so colorful and beautiful. It's also large, and I don't know if I showed the backs, but these are the backs, and they're very festive and glossy as well. But I just love them, and they bring that traditional kind of Halloween with the backings, and then the images are all very well themed and thought out, I feel. Very balanced. So that is the Halloween Oracle. And I believe this is still produced mass market. I got this a long while back, but this is a Blue Angel deck. Okay, so then, so we have some in here that I hope to be, that I hope are a little new to you as well, just because it can get a bit tiring to see kind of the same decks over and over. This is a deck I got from Spirit Halloween, and I don't know if Spirit sells decks every year, but I just saw this, I believe it was about 2 or 3 years ago now, and this just says the Deluxe Tarot Cards Prism Edition, and when I saw it I was just shocked that Spirit would sell tarot decks, and you know, perhaps I've just been very unobservant and not have seen the decks being sold there before, if that's the case. But I love this deck. It is so whimsical and magical, and during Halloween, when the veil is thin, this is just a part of the work that kind of brings that special element of mystic and magic that we may be lacking. So it has different characters, like this one's the pirate, and then we have the Kraken for the Nine of Cups. And it has this prismatic quality that reminds me of the 90s holographic stickers. If you know, you know. and I loved holographic stickers. I collected them, and just, I had sticker books, and it was a whole thing. But these images are just so whimsical. They look very animated, almost illustrated, like a coloring book. And especially with the holographic prismatic effect, it's very whimsical, and really there's no other word. It just inspires the imagination. Like this Nine of Wands is Pumpkinhead, and I love that. I love that so much. Halloween is always and will always be a very magical, mystical time for me, and the way that I view it. And these figures are just from all different myths and legends and beliefs. Some of them are a little strange, like Voodoo Warlock. I'm not sure what to make of that, but I love him, and I think that he is so interesting looking. And there's just all of this intense kind of symbolism going on in these cards as well. There's even an orc. And so I just saw these and I couldn't pass them up, and every time I get them out, they just make me very happy, which is just all you can really ask for in a deck. This is Echidna, which is the Four of Pentacles here. But there's different realms that you step into with tarot decks. That's really my belief or viewpoint on these, is that we're stepping into these different worlds and using these guides to help us figure out our lives, basically, and get our messages of empowerment or encouragement or that hard truth that we need. But like Nessie, like what other deck has Nessie in it? I mean, I'm sure there is one, but I just don't know. But Nessie, you know, is that figure of what could be out there that we don't know, just swimming in the waters of the subconscious or some kind of portal. And then we do have images like this one, which is Death. We have the skeleton, and this may be supposed to be the river Styx. And I know that there's a guide that drives the boat, and I don't remember what his name is, but I'm curious if that's supposed to be the depiction. And a necromancer. I just love the fun of this deck. It's very fun, and I wouldn't expect Spirit to have anything less than something that is fun, enchanting, and a little spooky, but not so spooky. See, this is Jenny Greenteeth, which I'm sure I have come across in some reading that I have done at some point. It feels very much like a folkloric figure. Giant whale, but I love this this deck. I don't use it enough, really, but that's just because of the amount of decks that I own. Anyone else feel this way? So that is the Deluxe Tarot Cards Prism Edition. I have no idea if this is still being made or sold, but it is a Spirit Halloween deck, and I would just check them out periodically to see if they do carry it again. If they don't, okay, Halloween tarot. I'm going to have to move a little quicker, guys. I am definitely taking a long time here. Okay, so the Halloween tarot is one that's definitely recommended by most people for a great reason. It is a very sturdy deck, great cardstock in my opinion. I love how sturdy it is, and also we have these adorable backs, which is very Halloween, classic Halloween with the orange and the black and the imagery. And then we have all of these really, what's the word? Cute Halloween kind of energy, where we have our ghosts. Kitschy is the word I was looking for. We have bats, and the suits are ghosts, bats, pumpkins, and let's see, what was the other one? Imps, I believe. I can find one. Yes, imps. And imps are like these little ghoul demon creatures, which are just so cute. But this is another one that just brings back the childhood fun and magical feeling that you get at Halloween, at least that I had growing up in the 90s. But I just feel transported back to those days when I use this deck, and really in this little world, this Halloween town kind of world, where everyone is comfortable with these little monsters, and there's no one that's, you know, bothered by the fact that there's ghosts and creatures all around that are very Halloween. It is a really great reader as well. It is very clear and gets to the point, but because of all of the lovely little imagery and the different places where you see this little black cat in every card, it gives you so much room to kind of play with the meanings. It gives you so much room to play with these meanings. Like this is the Three of Swords, but instead of swords we obviously have the bats, and they're kind of chewing on this heart, and we see the cat kind of, you know, thinking that is not a great idea, feeling a little bad about it. So it really just changes your perception of kind of what this card is a bit, what it could mean for you, depending on where you feel yourself in the card as well, from the cat's perspective or the bat's perspective or just an outside perspective, just a different kind of way of seeing it. But I really love just the energy of the deck. It's very soft in that way of the kind of meanings that you get, because it's animated and illustrated, I should say, and just the color palette and the little, you know, friendly little characters that surround each card as well. So this is a great one to pull out for Halloween. I use it all the time. I actually use it year-round, but during Halloween there is just a prolonged kind of usage of it, just to bring that, you know, that traditional Halloween feeling. My kids actually love this deck. I had to buy them their own because they kept taking it. Even when they were very young, they would just take this and, you know, play with it, and which I encourage, full on encourage them to do that. But I bought them their own copy so that I could keep the cards for as long as possible. So a great one, is good for teaching children if you are going to teach them tarot or if they're interested. Nice deck for that. so next, this is the Gothic Tarot, and this deck is surprisingly deep and nuanced for me. I get so much out of it when I work with it, and I edged the edges. I probably forgot to say that if there's any others that were edged, but I typically edge my own decks with a marker. So this deck, and these are the backs, this deck seems very simple, but the paintings by Joseph Vargo actually were paintings kind of first and foremost before they were created and placed into the tarot deck. So some of them you kind of have to do a lot of thinking about. Like this Seven of Pentacles is this scene in this manor, this kind of invitation into this manor. So you need to really think about that and kind of what it means for you in terms of, you know, the pentacles. It's not the traditional symbol at all. But I find a lot of freedom with that, especially when you are doing readings for other people, but also for your own readings. But these cards are very, very deep shadow work cards, at least they have been for me. There's a lot that you can get from them, and the figures also are not perhaps what you would expect either. I mean, this is a Gothic tarot, but it's mostly a vampire kind of deck, and there's a lot of beautiful imagery, but also very empowering kind of figures here. There are some kind of Pippish decks in a way, but there's always kind of a scene taking place. So, you know, this being the Eight of Wands, we have this ghost with these staves, and the traditional one is the staves flying, but in this case she's picking the staff up and flying with it, which, you know, that gives a different kind of meaning, because it's putting you more into that driver's seat a bit, rather than feeling as though you're being hit by the wands. Well, it's more like you are picking up this wand, or at least that's one way to look at it. And look at this for the Magician. We have this interesting, very interesting scene, and I highly recommend the book that comes with this. It doesn't come with it, it's a separate book, a guide behind the artwork, and it really goes into the process of discussing the imagery and why it was chosen, which I find helpful, but also just interesting, really, to see where the artist's mind was. But I love this deck because it's so it's more interactive in a way. It really makes you think and takes you out of the norm, stretches your intuitive capacity, and challenges you in that way. And I love the images. I just really get taken to this beautiful Gothic world. This has been one of my favorites for a long time, and initially I connected to this deck before I even connected with the Tarot of Vampires, just because of how much the imagery resonated with me and impacted me on an emotional kind of level. So the Fool here is like this, almost this challenge to step into this archway with all of these ghostly, ghastly things happening around it. And, like, look at this Eight of Cups. This is just so beautiful. The cemetery scenes, I think, are very impactful because they do make us think about mortality and remembering the past. And I mean, really, that's most of what we're doing when we are going on these journeys in the cards. I'm going to try not to go through this whole deck because this is another one I love it. I love it. It's so beautiful. The Knave of Cups. But by taking the traditional Rider-Waite imagery and just making it something so much more unique, we can put ourselves in so many different perspectives. Alright, last one, the Seven of Cups. But there's a lot of movement happening in the artwork and a lot of freedom to really feel differently about how things are being portrayed, and it does take you into that kind of quiet Gothic realm, and the colors are just so beautiful with the blues and the reds kind of contrasting each other and just making your eye kind of be drawn to certain areas of the cards. It feels like a Gothic film with that blue filter, like you're in a Tim Burton movie. But it's a gorgeous deck. And then again, that's the Gothic Tarot. So this one I don't know that a lot of people use during the fall, but it's the Crow Tarot, and this is actually one of my soul decks because this deck speaks to me intuitively, kind of on a psychic level that I hadn't even anticipated, and I've known that crows are one of my guides for a while. Crows and ravens have been a guide for me in difficult situations in my life, and they're also considered messengers of the other world. But this deck, it has kind of fall-inspired colors. It has the oranges and the kind of steely blues and the black, and it's very Rider-Waite reimagined, just with crows, but it has very potent spiritual energy, and it is beautiful if you do any kind of mediumship or you tap into your spirit guides often, or you're just looking for messages from the other side. This deck is very powerful for that, and it's not one that I ever even thought that I would like. To be completely honest, I remember there being such a big hype about this deck and how everyone had it, and it very much turned me away initially. I didn't buy this for a very long time because I felt that it was overhyped, that everyone had it, and I didn't like the imagery. Well, when I decided to buy this deck, I was completely blown away by the spiritual energy of it, and I honestly thought that it would just be a Rider-Waite clone and not worth my time or energy, and that there was other better decks out there. But, I mean, look at this Two of Wands. That is so beautiful. But I didn't even like the artwork when I first saw the pictures, and I didn't think that I would enjoy working with this deck, but it became one of my favorites, and also the one that I turned to for the most unbiased truth and the most connection to my higher self. and it's very grounding with the kind of the earthy colors that goes on here. But at the same time, it's very spiritual because it's tapping into that kind of dreamy, spiritual realm that you can connect with. So it's like a good messenger between the worlds, as crows are in kind of mythology and symbolism. But this deck it has become my favorite one. In fact, when I traveled kind of for the first time with a tarot deck, this is the one that I chose, and the messages it gave me were just funny at times because, you know, you get that deck that understands you on a level that it uses humor with you, kind of like, you know, that friend that completely understands you and can make you laugh while telling you the hard truth you need to hear. So this deck is very much recommended by me for the fall time because of the spiritual associations, but also just if you like Corvids, if you like the images, if you like the themes, it's a great deck for that. It's also very highly available as it's a mass market deck and it's been around for a long time. Very affordable, so I love this deck and highly recommend it. It also works well with everyone. I've read for my clients with this deck and I read for myself with this deck all of the time, so it's very versatile in that way. Okay, I think I'm going to have to do a part 2 video to this, guys. We're already at over a half an hour here. Okay, so we have the Haunted House. This is I think the last one I'll do in this video. This is the Haunted House Tarot, or Tarot of the Haunted House by Sasha Graham. And again, another one that is everywhere. A lot of people use this one. And it was another one that I kind of put off buying. Even though I knew that I would love the images, I didn't buy it right away. And again, it's because it was so overhyped, I feel, and I wasn't sure that I would really actually connect with it. Not that I always, you know, don't buy the things that are recommended. It's just I wasn't sure about this. You know, I wanted it to be a bit more on the gothic side than it is. But the readings are very profound. And they look very simple upon first examination. But the story that, you know, that unfolds with this deck is very special when you really take the time to learn the story of the cards and the journey that the character is going in, and then sit with your own kind of meanings for the cards. It does become very another kind of very psychic deck, in that you can kind of pick things up that you may not with an ordinary Rider-Waite deck. And it's because it gives you this freedom to step into this world, this story, but also that there's kind of a framework already going around in it of this woman who was given this haunted house, essentially, and is traveling through these rooms that are each kind of alive with their own ghosts, their own blessings, stories. But it's very touching. It's very emotional. I do find this to be a great one to work with, kind of, you know, that highly emotional energy that we have around the situations, because it really just helps you feel through that and kind of recognize a bit more clearly, you know, why you are feeling that way. So I love this deck because of its lush kind of scenes, but more so just the way that it puts you into your emotions and challenges your perspectives. As you'll note that that's a bit of a theme with the decks that I love the most. Like this Hierophant is something else when you really sit with this energy of what it is and what it's saying. But it's also just, it's very motivating also. I find this deck very motivating. And the guidebook, even though it's very small, it's one of the white book guidebooks, it actually does kind of give different meanings than the traditional white books do. So that's another added benefit. But it's just a nice deck. It's different, a little exciting, just because you feel you don't know what to expect until you learn it. And it has its own voice. But very fun to bring out, especially during October. Okay, and I'm going to end this video here because I actually have piles of other cards to go through and books and everything else, but I want to put this one up and see what you guys think of this. I'd love to know what you think of this style of video, if it was interesting, entertaining, or not. And if you are someone that has a collection, what kinds of cards do you like to bring out during October? What are your favorite cards? And if you've made it this far in the video, drop me a pumpkin emoji, because why not? It's Halloween. And hopefully I will get this up and have the other video up soon after and not make you wait too long. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe if you like videos like this, because I do intend to do more like this. It's just something I love to do, and why not? I already have the cards. I already do this for myself and for my clients, so I'd love to just start sharing this more and just talk more to you guys and really just share a bit more about myself to you and hear more about your tarot journeys as well. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys very, very soon.